Habituated thinking is largely the result of the memes you've allowed into your brain. The sole function of these mind viruses is to make umpteen copies of themselves and then infiltrate and spread wherever possible. While you might have been unaware that you were able to choose to reject those memes, the choice was nevertheless available. Although it may have been very difficult for you to overcome early influences, perhaps you believed it to be way too burdensome and exhausting an undertaking. You were still unwilling to do so. Right now, declare yourself on the side of willingness rather than unwillingness. Begin in this present moment to kick those old excuse patterns down the stairs, one step at a time. Am I willing to take total responsibility for all of the conditions of my life? Examine how much you fault other people and circumstances for keeping you from achieving the level of success and happiness and health you'd like to be enjoying. Are you willing to stop doing this? Blaming others for deficiencies or any of the conditions of your life keeps you from fulfilling your own highest destiny. Everyone in life does exactly what they know how to do given the conditions of their lives. That's the way I've chosen to look at the factors that made up the story of my life. You do yourself a huge disservice if you're unwilling to say with conviction, in some way that I don't fully understand, I've made myself a vibrational match to all of the conditions of my life, and I'm willing to take all of the responsibility for these conditions. It's no one's fault. I bear full responsibility. And then, all that you are, all that you have or don't have, and all that has come your way. Yes, it's easier to cast blame someplace else, but when you choose an excuses-begone life, you put the steering wheel of your life back in your hands where it belongs. I'm aware that taking responsibility often appears difficult. Accidents, mistreatment, abandonment, and dreary circumstances can certainly make life challenging. Being willing doesn't mean feeling a sense of personal shame or guilt over wrongdoings that may have been perpetrated upon you, nor does it mean believing that you've been punished because of some karmic payback. You indeed may have suffered at the hands of uneducated, poorly informed, and badly addicted people. It was not your fault. Even as we recognize this, I still urge you to accept without guilt that everything that has shown up in your life has value equal to your assuming responsibility for its existence. At the very least, be willing to accept it as you would an unwanted, uninvited child that you've come to care for through unforeseen circumstances. There's something for you to learn in any difficulty. Be willing to say, "Thank you, God, for the experiences I've lived through," on a daily basis. Look for the blessing in all situations, and remind yourself that you're no longer a child, but a fully functioning adult willing to accept responsibility. The second question to ask is, am I willing to surrender? Ridding yourself of excuses involves receptivity to turning yourself over to something greater than your own little ego. In order to live the life that's waiting to materialize for you, you simply must be willing to let go of the one you've been planning for years. As Lao Tzu put it so succinctly, if you want to be given everything, give everything up. While it may sound strange to you now, the thing you surrender to becomes your power. In the first question in this section, you ask yourself if you are willing to take full responsibility for all of the conditions of your life. Now you must discover whether you're able to let go to the point that it becomes almost second nature. By surrendering to a higher power, you become intimately familiar with the highest place within you, your true, infinite, co-creating self. If you're immersed in the workings of the ego, you may not even have the faintest idea of what is meant by subordinating yourself to a higher principle. If this is the case for you, then your false self is the beginning and the end, the sum of all of your existence. Abandoning excuses is not a likely outcome in that scenario, so simply recite this sentence to yourself. Quote, "I'm willing to surrender to that all-creating force responsible for all of life coming into form, and to allow myself to be lived by it rather than my living it." Unquote. I love the words of Ramana Maharshi, who sees this subject as applying not to some external higher being, but rather to the highest part of yourself. Quote, "Surrender is giving oneself up to the original cause of one's being. Do not delude yourself by imagining this source to be some God outside you. One source is within oneself. Give yourself up to it." Unquote. The secret to let yourself be lived by that highest part of yourself, as Lao Tzu's observation at the beginning of this chapter states, if you are willing to be lived by it, you will see it everywhere, even in the most ordinary things. While the pesky ego keeps telling you to run the show, that wise spiritual teacher from ancient China and I encourage you to do the reverse. Why not give in to this notion and let yourself be lived by the creative spirit that is always within you? Just let go, and that it's all being done right before your eyes. Surrender and become less attached to the ego-dominated idea that the world is giving you a raw deal. This is the deal, period. You came here when you were supposed to, and you will leave on time, independent of your opinion about it. If you watch your body aging, you know that you aren't making the changes to it. They're just being made. Your body's being lived by the great Tao, the all-creating source. If your ego were truly in charge, you would never wrinkle or see age spots or die. Like it or not, something greater than your ego is in charge of everything. Now extend this same thinking to all of your life, beyond your body, and release yourself to this great energy source.